asked you to tell me what was on the table, how many objects would you be able to remember? 1, 2, possibly more. Now maybe if we focus on the things on the table for a bit longer, maybe for a minute. Now I don't know about you, but I'm not very good at remembering things. That's why I carry my trusty diary wherever I go, because when somebody tells me something or I hear something that's really important, I write it down and then I can remember. But I know that some of you are really good at remembering things and observing things, little details. My husband's like that. He'll remember the tiniest detail that I haven't even noticed. So I wonder, if you were to grab a piece of paper right now, just how many of the objects on the table would you be able to remember? We're going to pause the video. If you're at home, grab a piece of paper and a pencil. Maybe in school you can do it with your teacher on the whiteboard. There were 12 objects. Have a go. Well, okay, let's see how you did. There were 12 objects. I wonder how many you remembered. Let's start with the bottle of lemonade. There was a training shoe. There was some cooking oil. There was a can of Coke. There was a candle. There was a school dictionary. There was a very complicated piece of Lego Technics. There was a cabbage, my trusty diary, a letter, a glass of water, and, if I could do it without knocking the Lego off, whoops, a plastic bag. So, how did you do? Did anybody get 12 out of 12? I'd be really impressed if you did. But now it gets a little bit harder. Can anybody work out what all of these things on the table, including the cabbage, have in common? Why don't you stop the video and have a little discussion in your class group or at home? I wonder what creative ideas you've come up with. I'm sure there will have been some brilliant ones, because some of you are really good at thinking and reasoning and giving a really good explanation for your answer. But actually, it was a really tricky question that I asked you, and I doubt if any of you actually came up with the correct answer. You see, all of the things on this table are things that have changed the world. And by change the world, they've changed the world in the hands of the people who did something with them. And all of the people who did things with them were children, like you, or slightly older, teenagers. And we're going to hear about how these 12 people changed the world with the Lego, or the candle, or the cabbage.
A 14-year-old boy called Easton LaChapelle was really great at building things with Lego. One day, he had a go at making a robotic hand out of Lego bricks and fishing wire. He took it to a science fair and he won third prize. Now, whilst he was at that fair, he met a girl who'd been born with just one arm, and she had what we call a prosthetic or artificial arm, which had cost $80,000. When he met this girl, he suddenly had a great idea, and he started to make prosthetic hands and arms, but at much cheaper prices, and he's still doing that today.
When Ryan Hickman was 3, he visited a recycling centre in California, and he decided that he wanted to do something to help. At the age of 7, he started Ryan's Recycling by collecting cans and bottles from his neighbours because he didn't want them to end up in the ocean and to kill animals. He has already recycled over 200,000 bottles and cans.
Katie Stagliano was good at gardening and growing things. When she was 8 years of age, she grew a cabbage that weighed 40 pounds. That's the same weight as about 20 bags of sugar. She took this cabbage to a kitchen that fed homeless people, and that single cabbage fed 275 people. It was then that she had the idea of setting up Katie's Crops, and there now are over 100 gardens across America run by teenagers that feed the homeless.
Anne Frank, who you might have heard of, was good at writing and journaling. She kept a diary of what had happened to her and her family while they were hiding during the Second World War. It was published in 1947, and since then it has been translated into 60 different languages and gives us very valuable information about what happened.
When Nicholas was a teenager, he met a brother and sister who were homeless, and they only went to school every other day because they had to share a pair of shoes. Nicholas gave the boy a pair of trainers, and then he set up Gotta Have Soul, which is an organisation that gives shoes away to people who don't have them.
When Samantha Smith was 10, she wrote a letter to the Russian and American presidents, and there was a more peaceful relationship between the two countries as a result.
Tanjiwe received the International Children's Peace Prize when she was aged 16 for fighting for all children to have an education in Zambia, Africa.
Alex sold homemade lemonade to raise money for children with cancer, just like her, and raised over $100 million by the time she was 8.
At age 11, Cassandra was using her research and scientific skills when she found out that cooking oil could be turned into biofuel to heat houses. She then persuaded all the local restaurants to donate their used cooking oil, which was then turned into biofuel, and she set up T-GIF, Turn Grease into Fuel.
Asia used her business skills to make and sell candles, and now she teaches other teenagers to set up their own businesses.
16-year-old Boyan went on holiday to Greece, and as a result of seeing so much plastic pollution in the sea, he set up Ocean Cleanup, and so far has raised over $31.5 million to clean up the seas.
And finally, 11-year-old Jitinat Jali, after a disaster in her town, used her inventing skills to create a device that detects lead in water.
Now, some of you may be sitting at home or at school thinking, wow, they're amazing! But I'm not very good at anything. I'll never make a difference like they did. Well, we're going to listen to another topsy-turvy story that Jesus told, and hopefully by the end of it you might realise that you're wrong. It's called the parable of the talents. Now, a talent in Jesus' day was a unit of money, a very large unit of money. In actual fact, a talent is thought to have been worth about 16 years' worth of wages. a lot of money. Jesus told a story about a boss who gave his workers some money to use for him whilst he was away. "Take this money to make more money for me," he said. One man got 1 talent, another man 2 talents, and the best worker got 5 talents. "Use these well until I get back," said the boss. The best worker with 5 talents bought and sold things with the money and made 5 more talents for his boss. The man with 2 talents also used them well. But the lazy man with 1 talent dug a hole and buried it in the garden where it was no use to anyone. "I will leave it here until my boss comes back," he thought. Their boss came back to see what they had done with his money. The man with 5 talents had made 5 more. The man with 2 talents had made 2 more. "Well done," said the boss. "You are good workers. Now you can be the boss of others." The lazy man said, "I hid the talent because it isn't fair if you get money I work for." "Even in the bank, my money would grow," said the boss. "Go away, you are a lazy man." It is important to do your best with what God has given to you. Use your talents for God, and then one day He will be able to say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." So, as usual, we need to ask the question, why did Jesus tell this topsy-turvy story? What did he want us to learn? Well, God is like the boss or the businessman in the story who gave talents to each of his workers. And we are like the workers who received the talents, but from God. Now, in the time of Jesus, a talent was a unit of money. But nowadays, we know that a talent is a gift or a skill, something that somebody is really good at. In other words, God puts good things in each and every one of us. He invests in us. We all have a talent or talents, something we're good at. Now, even if you've not discovered yours yet, there will be something that makes you, you. When we discover what our God-given talents are, they make us feel good and we begin to discover who we really are. What's more is that as unique individuals, we can have a unique impact in the world in which we live if we put our talents to good use. Now, in the story, the man with 5 talents and the man with 2 talents, they put their talents to good use and they doubled what they started with. And their boss was really pleased with them, just like God is pleased with us when we use our talents well. Does God want us to hide our talents like the 3rd man in the story, or even waste them? No, He wants us to put our talents to good use. Now, we might not appear in a list of children who change the world, like the children we talked about today, but that's not what God is interested in. He just wants us to make a difference where we are, by what we do, with what we have.
We're going to ask God to help us to do that right now. But first, we're just going to take a minute or two to have a little think. To think about what our talent might be. How might that talent, that thing that we're good at, be used in the future? Or if you're thinking, but I don't know what my talent is, I don't know what I'm good at, then maybe you can ask God to help you discover what that talent is. Think about what you enjoy doing. Maybe what other people have said that you're really good at. Because we all have a talent. I'm going to talk to God. And if you want to join me, You can listen to the words I say and then say Amen, which means I agree. Or otherwise, just think about the assembly today and what we have been talking about. God, thank you that we are all unique and special, that we all have gifts and talents that we can use in a unique way. Some of us are creative, some of us are musical, some of us are especially thoughtful and caring. Help us to discover what our talents are and to discover your purpose for our lives so that we can live our lives to the full and make a difference to those around us. Amen.